Hi, my name is Sean, and in this video I'm going to be showing you what is the Stone of Life, what mine looks like, and how you can make your own. First of all, I found the Stone of Life in the book The Chimp Paradox. Highly recommend it. And just before we start, every single one of these points are unique to my own. You may agree with some of them, you may even agree with all of them, but every person's stone of life is absolutely unique to that person, and it also changes and evolves over time. Very briefly then, what is the stone of life? It is your own core values and beliefs written down in one place to help you live your best life. You can either completely come up with them on your own, you can maybe hear them from other people, get them from other resources such as books like I have, or any mixture of those. Some of these are original, some of these I've taken from other people, and as I say, some of them are from directly from the book The Chimp Paradox or other books. So let me just run through each heading and then we'll dive right into them. Values. This is what you value in yourself, it's what you value in other people, it's what you value from life. Life force. There's only one line on this one, as you can see. In the book, The Chimp Paradox, it is you are given 60 seconds, you're on your deathbed, and you have to give your great great grandchild some life advice. What do you tell them? Truths of life. This is something that you have either already proven to yourself multiple times, and at any point in time, you could prove again to yourself. And it is a truth that you believe and that you live by in life. You'll notice that these ones here are incomplete, they're not even started here. And you'll also notice that up here, this one is in orange and the other ones are in purple. This is an incomplete stone of life. And I actually said to myself before making this video, I'm going to complete this thing first, then I'll make the video, which is not possible because your stone of life is something that is constantly growing. It will never ever be finished. And that is because there will be new things added. Some of them you'll maybe outgrow, remove them, or you might edit some of these. You might want to change them up. I've got here my own strengths and weaknesses in your classic way of what you would see in like a CV or a job interview. What are your strengths and weaknesses? I've not added that yet. Play, I'm talking about here the sense of play and the state of flow. Human interaction, as it sounds, just some tips and things that I have found with how to be a better listener, how to be a better person with other people. This belief section then. Beliefs are facts that are only factual to you. These may be hard facts, who knows, but I believe them. That's why they're there, because I believe them. So they're almost as good as facts, but I believe them. That's why they're not called facts, I guess. Just your classic proverbs and quotes. I've written the names of some of these ones here. This is one of the largest ones when it is more developed, because I have lots of quotes that I like that will be going in here. And then right here we have what do you actually want. People always are trying to self-improve themselves and just get better at life, and everyone's chasing something. And one day I just said to myself, what do I actually want? What am I really after here? And that's this section here. And then mindset. This is taken from the book. Most of these are taken from the book Chimp Paradox, and I've built upon the framework that is in that book. These are my own words here. The structure is from the book. This is going to be a lengthy video, and I'm just going to cover the truths of life for just now. In the next video, I will look at values and take it from there. I'm going to read through all of these. Some of them I don't have much to say on, some of them I have lots to say on. And as I mentioned, this is all a work in progress. Some of them I feel very strongly about, and some of them I'm kind of on the fence, but strong enough that they're currently on the list. First off the bat then, life is not fair. Now this is one that I've taken from the Chimp Paradox. Life is not fair. And the idea with this one is whenever you get into any situation or any day of the week, you already start off with life isn't fair. And so when something unfair happens to you, you're at least going to not be surprised by it, and you're not going to be offended by it either. Life is not fair, and that's, I think most people would agree with that. Life is not fair. When unfairness happens to you, you'll be able to just handle it. This one here, I'm not going to go too into depth with. This is one I've created myself. It's a philosophy I'm still working on. When you're in a negative situation or a negative scenario, this helps me remember that it's still ongoing. There's no point ruminating yet. And I always promise to myself when I'm in a negative situation that I will worry about it later on. I'm going to worry about it when it is properly fully developed and we're in bad waters, as it were. But if it's still in escrow, there's been too many times where something bad was happening, but then it actually turned out to not be bad, preemptively reacted. So I just said to myself, okay, next time I'm in a bad situation, just going to wait a little bit longer before I react. That's all that one is. And that actually ties in with over here what I want. And that is, I want to just react a little bit slower. I want to just, and I mean emotionally, I want to just have a slight delayed response to my negative emotions and reactions. Don't want to get rid of them. I just want to have a slight delay on them just so I can have more control over my thoughts and emotions and feelings. Things are not as they seem. Pretty self-explanatory there. You don't even like everyone. This is from a meme that is worded something like, why do you get upset when everyone doesn't like you? You don't even like everyone. It's kind of like a tongue-in-cheek one. This one here is to do with the drama triangle, how to fix someone. You can't. Not strictly true. What it boils down to is people help themselves. You cannot help someone, and the only time you can really help someone is when they're being receptive and they're asking for your help and they are going to actually receive it and use it. And you'll notice that a lot of these tie in to each other and they have the same kind of theme. This ties into one later on. Everyone is going to hurt you. You have to find the ones who are worth suffering for. Now, I truly believe this, and I might put this in the belief section. Every single person you will ever meet will annoy you or will give you some sort of negative emotion, whatever that is. Every single person, including your own self. It's not about finding someone that's not going to give you a negative emotion because it's not possible. It really is about finding someone that is worth feeling that odd negativity about. And I feel like I'm doing that very well. I have a really amazing group of friends. Every single one of them does something that annoys me, and I'm sure I annoy every single one of them with at least something. And that is part of the human experience. Things are not as personal as they feel. And this is one that I've borrowed from somewhere else, and I'm still working on this one. I'm still in the position where when something negative happens to me, it feels personal. I know that it isn't. I still feel that it is. And so I have this written here just to remind myself that things are not as personal as they feel. Even though they feel like that, they certainly do in the moment. There is no right time, only time. I believe this is from the book The Paradox of Choice, and it's about your perception, not just your perception of time, but every single thing is subjective. It's one that I like to think about when making choices or when to start something. You're never going to feel this is the right time. There is only time. And this can help you with things such as procrastination. All we have is our own perception. This is a thing from physics. Technically, every single thing you've ever experienced is your own experience. You can't experience someone else's. And so when you just keep that in mind, it helps me keep myself right. When someone else is maybe in disagreement with me, I just have to remind myself that they have their own perspective, their own experiences, and I have my own as well. They're not necessarily right or wrong. I'm not necessarily right or wrong. It's really important to get other people's perspective. You can never experience what somebody else has, but you can try your best to just see what their perspective is. If you're not changing it, you're choosing it. This is a quote from somewhere that I don't remember, but it was a friend that gave it to me, and I believe this. If you're not changing it, you're choosing it. It's a bit more complicated than that, but it's a nice little quick one to get you going. This too shall pass. I got this from CBT, Cognitive Behavioral Therapy. It's something I use when I'm feeling anxious. Just to remind myself that this will pass. And even positive things will pass as well. Every single thing is temporary. Everything. You are not your thoughts. This can help with things like intrusive thoughts or negative thoughts or some sort of thoughts that makes you feel like you might be a bad person because you've got these thoughts coming into your head. These thoughts are not you. You are not them. You have thoughts, but you are not them. You're always one thought away from any mindset. I get this from the book called Clarity. Highly recommend it. Now, this works both ways. I won't go into the full explanation of this because it is a very long explanation. I might make another video on this, but I would recommend the book Clarity by Jamie Smart. You can be in a bad mood and you can easily come out of that. One thought, one thing can happen to pull you out of that. and the other way around as well. You can be right as rain, everything's fine, and suddenly disaster strikes. But really, what's happened is something in your own mind. This can be a powerful tool if you're feeling negative and you don't want to be feeling that way. It's okay to take your time to respond. Now, all of these are unique to myself, as I mentioned at the beginning. This one is very much for me. I often get myself into a lot of trouble because I feel like I need to respond very quickly, whereas in reality, I can just take my time. Injustices happen and can't always be put right. This is taken directly from the Chimp paradox. It's one of these ones where it is what it says on the tin. The goalposts move. I think I took this one from the Chimp Paradox. I reworded it slightly, and it's kind of like life is not fair. You just got to do your best. A lot of these I could say a lot more on. I'm trying to just brush over them with as much detail and as concisely as I can. It's not the end of the world if justice does not get served. Again, another one from the Chimp Paradox, and it's one that I feel like I personally really needed. There was lots of these examples in the Chimp Paradox, and I've taken a handful of them either directly or edited very slightly. There are no guarantees excluding death and taxes. That's probably one of the most classic ones on here. Of course, I've taken that from elsewhere. You win some, you lose some. It's one of my favorite ones. It's classic. You won't be as happy as you think when people do as you have suggested. This one is created by myself exclusively for myself. I won't go too in depth with that. That's there for me. The version of me created by others in their own mind is not my responsibility. Just leave that one there. Memento mori. It is Latin, I believe, and it just means remember death, as in eventually you'll die. Everyone will die. And it means different things to other people. Don't take life so seriously. Everything is temporary, that kind of thing. People are almost never wrong about their likes and dislikes. This is one that I've created, and without going into my own life problems, this just keeps me right when I'm communicating with others. In fact, I'll probably put this into the section down there that is for the human interactions. It's one I need to regularly remind myself about. People find their own journey, and your external slash forced influence will do very little, if anything, and may be more harm than good. This is an original one of mine, but it was inspired by the book You're Not Listening. Highly recommended book. In fact, that entire book is going to be not quite rewritten, but it's going to be chopped up and dumped on this human interaction section. I've got there already. Listening, the book You're Not Listening. Highly recommended. Life is constant and there are no happy ever after. I guess that's kind of just another way of writing that everything is temporary, and it's to try and remind myself of just taking things a bit easier and just trying to enjoy the moment a bit more. You live every day, you only die once. I actually heard this from a guy in the sauna. I take regular saunas, sometimes daily, minimum probably 3 times a week. I have some of the best conversations in saunas. Often it it always boils down to philosophy and things of that nature, all this kind of stuff. Somebody shared this with me, and I think it's brilliant. There are rarely solutions, usually trade offs. This is an edited version of one that I'd heard that went something like, there are never solutions, only trade offs. And I've edited to, there are rarely solutions, usually trade offs. I'm not sure where the origin of that one came from, but I got that from a close friend. Comparison is the thief of joy, and I am the thief of this quote. I don't know where it came from, but I love it. People will have values or beliefs which you will never have or understand, and that's okay. And again, this is very unique to myself with my own internal demons when communicating with others, and I need to remind myself of this one regularly, and it's a really important one for me. Life doesn't always feel great, and a ratio to aim for is the rule of thirds. Good, bad, and neutral. A third of the time good, a third of the time bad, and a third of the time neutral. This is from the book Stolen Focus. Again, another book that I would highly recommend. It's not quite digital detoxing. I don't know if I would quite word it that way. It's kind of like digital detoxing. And I think that's a good rule to live by. I feel like people, when they strive for happiness, it's almost like they're trying to strive for too much happiness. And I feel like neutral's okay. In fact, feeling bad is okay. Feeling upset, feeling the full range, the full spectrum of emotions, in my opinion, should be embraced. It's not about feeling happy all the time. I mean, from the Tao Te Ching, There is only good because there's bad. There is only happy because there is sad. The happy and sad part's not in the Tao Te Ching, but you get what I'm saying. There is only long because there is short. There's only dark because there is light, and so on and so forth. More often, we do because of how rather than why. Now, this is one where I could talk at length about. I'll try and keep it as concise as possible. I have ADHD. I have many hobbies. I do seemingly lots of strange things because people often ask me why I do things. And this is where I came up with this. This is an original one. And I don't do things because of why, I do things because of how. People ask me why I go to the gym, and I feel like there isn't a why, but there's more of like a how. And I mean, I go to the gym to go to the gym. I like every aspect of it. I like going through the motions. Every single second I'm in there is just brilliant. So it's less about the why and it's more about the how. It's like artists when they're working on their art. There is no why. It really is about the how. I'll leave that there for just now, but I can easily expand on that one. This one. Does the waves hitting the shoreline make mistakes? Do we make mistakes? This one probably requires a lot of context. It's a quote from Alan Watts in one of his speeches, and I believe it's in one of his books as well, when he's talking about the universe and the stars in the sky and how they're all scattered and they're not in a particular pattern. And that's how we like them. We like them all scattered, and we wouldn't enjoy them in a pattern as much. And when you watch the waves and the stars and everything else is really just the universe just doing universal things. It's just the waves hitting the rocks. And the question is then, this is for myself, where when I see someone making a mistake, according to me, are they really making a mistake? Or are they just the waves hitting the shoreline? That's all I'll say on that one there. But again, this is one where I could talk in length about. Not everyone is receptive to everything right now, not even you. This is one where I'm working on actively. It's to do with the drama triangle and the rescuer syndrome. And I just need to learn that giving people advice is not always a great thing because they're not receptive of it. And that includes myself. I'm not always receptive. Not everyone is always receptive to all information, and that's a difficult one. On a cosmic scale, nothing matters. This is pure nihilism. Love it. Massive fan of nihilism. And this one statement can snap me out of an anxiety attack. It can just pull me right out of that. I find nihilism helps me when I feel anxious, and just that when they're just reminding myself. If I've ever gotten myself into a situation where I'm ruminating on, say, social problems, I just remind myself of that. I can just say it out loud, just think about it, realize it, believe it, pulls me right out. Generally, the solution to most people's problems are usually within the person already, and by listening to them, you can help them the most. This is taken from the book You're Not Listening. I may have reworded it ever so slightly, but it is what it says in the tin, and you can see that it ties into a lot of these other ones I have written down. Not everyone is playing the same game as you and isn't even aware of the rules you live by. This one kind of applies to this full stone of life. I have beliefs and values. Some of them are quite common. A lot of them are very unique to myself. Everyone's stone of life are going to be like that. There's going to be lots of common ones, lots of unique ones in there. This is inspired by the Chimp paradox. And there's a section on the Chimp paradox where when you get upset with someone doing something that you don't like, it's unfair of you to do that to them because you're holding them to your standards. And that's not a positive thing. It's a useless thing, really. And it doesn't really help anyone. In fact, all it's really doing is hurting yourself. So that's what I do there, as I just remember that I'm playing a game. If I mean, I'm using that in the loose sense of the word or the phrase where, life is a game, that kind of trope. I'm playing by these rules. People play by their rules. Sometimes our rules match, sometimes they don't, and I just need to be aware of that. You don't need to give anyone or everyone your rationale. There's a really good video by Vsauce. This Vsauce video talks about how humans are really good at making very quick decisions, as in split-second decisions based on hundreds, sometimes thousands of factors. We just make very quick decisions. What humans are not good at doing is coming up with a rationale for that choice. Balance is important, and it may look different for each person in each situation. One of my favorite ones: in the current system, you are needed. I wrote this down after reading some Zen Buddhism and some Zen Buddhism haikus that I generated using ChatGPT. This was in a time in my life, not that long ago, about a year ago, where I felt useless, I felt worthless, I felt not needed by anyone, I felt unneeded by society, and that lack of value, that lack of self value was very difficult, and it led to me having a complete career change. But anyway, that isn't a very short point. But when I personally read that, it brings to me lots of positive memories and lots of positive thoughts, and just a reminder that I am needed in this current system. And by this system, I mean everything from my house, my town, my country, my planet, my company, my everything like that. I am currently needed, and so are you. If you're listening to this, you are currently needed in our system as well. Moving on. Opportunity doesn't find you, you find opportunity. I got this from a really nice person I had a conversation with, and they gave this to me on the same day I came up with this one here. And I was telling them about this truth, and we had this conversation. They gave me this: opportunity doesn't find you, you find opportunity. This one can help anti procrastination, and a good reminder not so much to not be lazy. I'm not really keen on lazy or not. I don't feel like that's a very good way to judge things, but I like that one, and it's just a reminder that you do need to be active sometimes in certain areas. You don't need to have an opinion on everything. And I think that's an important one. I am a person who believes in having strong beliefs that are loosely held, but there's no point in me having a belief on something or an opinion on something. If I'm not educated on a topic, I won't have an opinion on it. And I too often see people that have strong opinions on subjects that they don't have any education on. And I feel like I don't want to have that trait. I don't want to have the trait of having an opinion on something I'm just simply not educated on. It's not helpful. And finally, due to entropy, nothing is perfect. And that one's kind of like a funny one. I'm trying to be funny with this one here. I'm not a perfectionist. I absolutely could not be further from that. I really am of the opinion that if something's good enough, it's good enough. We can improve it later. We can work on it later, but just kind of get something rolling, much like this video. Hopefully you've taken something from this video. I hope you have, and please stick around for the next one.